translation is the challenge. And I'm sure some of you have seen this in resumes that have reached out to try and help. So I try and put this in perspective, okay? Jen mentioned that my last duty assignment, I was the Director of Training and Leader Development for the U.S. Army Engineer School. At this point in time, you're supposed to all go, wow. That was an impressive title, Paul, all right? Okay, anybody know what that means? Director of Training and Leader Development. If you can do it with one word, why would you do that? You do it with 5 in the military, that's the way we say it, right? So my counterpart in the Air Force, because the Air Force is it's the youngest service, so we like to kind of tease them that they're the closest to the civilian population. The title of my peer at the Air Force Civil Engineering School was the Dean. There you go. So now when I talk to folks like you, and on my resume it says the Dean of the Army Engineer School, because that's what it was in civilian terms. So there's that aspect of, we have to make these job descriptions that sound important, so we'll add more words to them, right? So there's that aspect of it, okay? But then now, as the Dean of the Army's Engineer School, my responsibilities included the training development for all the Army's plumbers, carpenters, electricians, masons, truck drivers, divers, firefighters, all marketable skills, right? All things that we need in the civilian world. And then I also did the execution of the training for all the young officers, warrant officers, and non-commissioned officers, okay? A lot of talent, by the way. So when we trained those plumbers, carpenters, electricians, and then sent them off to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Fort Hood, Texas, Fort Lewis, Washington, and I think 52 different states and territories in the Guard and Reserve, which credential do you think they got? So where does the credentialing authority reside for plumbers, carpenters, electricians? State level. So look, I knew this going into it, and I tried to make this my mission to solve this problem. I had determined it was an unsolvable problem because I could not get 50 different states to come together. It was hard enough to get 2. And I mean, look, there are other competing interests in this deal as well. Labor unions why would labor unions who tend to, are behind some of the credentialing programs in the civilian world, why would they want this population that has been trained to not have to go through their training, right? And why would they want the burden of trying to have to certify our training? I understand that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand that. And so it's not just a translational challenge. It's also a challenge with credentialing. So now, my company is a restoration company. I hope to get a general contracting license soon. And I run into the same problems, by the way, with my professional engineer license. It's in the state of Missouri. If I applied for what's called comity or to kind of transfer to Florida, it's almost as if I was a new college graduate. I have to go back in time and cover all of my history all over again. It's a challenge. So we're wrestling with that, but I don't think that problem's going to be solved. So if you see that, 1, the translational challenges, but 2, the credentialing challenge. And the same thing is true now. It gets a little bit easier with some of the things like IT, which are kind of, Microsoft A++ certificate, those things. And so the IT folks in the military are getting a little bit better at that. Some of the medical requirements, truck drivers, CDLs, things like that. But there's a real challenge with credentialing, okay?